Hey guys, tonight we are stepping back into a world of flickering gaslight and very, very hairy faces. Imagine walking down a London street in 1860. The air is thick with the scent of coal smoke and expensive tobacco. Every man you pass looks like he is carrying a small, furry animal right under his nose. You might see a thin, elegant line of hair or a massive, bushy hedge that covers a man's entire mouth. You probably believe this was just a simple fashion choice, like wearing a specific type of hat or a colorful waistcoat. But in reality, the Victorian mustache was a serious piece of social equipment, a symbol of power, and a total nightmare when it came to eating a bowl of hot soup. Before you get too comfortable and possibly fall asleep halfway through, tap like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this odd mix of boredom and history. It keeps the channel alive, and the story's just sleepy enough to help you drift off again next time. I would love to know where you are listening from and what time it is for you. Are you tucked under a blanket in a rainy city, or is it a quiet morning where you are? Let me know in the comments. Now, dim the lights, let the world outside grow quiet, and turn on a fan if you like that soft, steady hum in the background. Let your shoulders loosen and your breathing slow. This is your time to drift. No rush, no deadlines, no noise. Just you, a little warmth in the air, and the faint whisper of history waiting to unfold. So, settle in, and let's ease gently into tonight's journey together. You wake up in a room that feels heavy with the weight of velvet curtains. The morning light is pale and soft, struggling to push through the thick London fog that presses against the window pane. It is a quiet morning, and the only sound is the occasional crackle of a dying fire in the hearth. You stretch your arms, feeling the cool air on your skin, but there is something heavy on your face. It is not a blanket or a pillow. It is your mustache. In this era, your facial hair is your pride, your identity, and your daily project. You sit up slowly, feeling the weight of the hair as it brushes against your top lip. It is long, thick, and currently quite messy from a night of sleep. You walk over to the washstand, where a porcelain bowl sits filled with lukewarm water. The mirror is slightly clouded, reflecting a version of you that looks like a very tired, very hairy explorer. For decades before this moment, men preferred to be clean-shaven. The smooth face of the early 19th century was a sign of a civilized man. But times have changed. Now, a bare upper lip is almost a sign of weakness. You look at your reflection and realize that your mustache is not just hair. It is a structural achievement. To maintain this look, you have to follow a strict routine that would make a modern hair stylist feel exhausted. The shift toward this extreme hairiness is a fascinating story. One mainstream historical fact is that the trend was largely driven by the Crimean War in the 1850s. During that conflict, British soldiers found themselves in freezing conditions where shaving was nearly impossible. When they returned home, they brought their rugged, bearded faces with them. These men were seen as heroes, and suddenly, every man in England wanted to look like he had just survived a winter in a trench. The mustache became a badge of courage. You touch the ends of your own hair, feeling the coarse texture. It is a symbol of your standing in the world, even if it makes drinking water a bit of a challenge. You reach for a small tin on the washstand. Inside is a hard, waxy substance made of beeswax and perhaps a bit of lard or scent. This is mustache wax. You scrape a little bit out with your fingernail and begin to warm it between your thumb and forefinger. The scent of lavender and pine fills the small space around you. You carefully work the wax into the long hairs, twisting the ends into sharp, elegant points. If you do not do this, the hair will simply hang over your mouth like a damp curtain. You have to sculpt it, turning your face into a work of art. It is a slow, meditative process. You move your fingers rhythmically, smoothing the stray hairs until everything is perfectly in place. As you work, you think about the strange tools men use to keep their facial hair perfect. A quirky and fringe tidbit of this time is the invention of the mustache trainer. This was a leather and elastic frame that a man would wear over his face while he slept. It looked like a tiny, soft cage designed to hold the mustache in an upward position so it wouldn't get crushed by the pillow. You imagine wearing such a device, feeling the gentle pressure on your cheeks all night, just to ensure your style remains crisp for the morning. It seems like a lot of work, but in the Victorian world, appearance is everything. If your mustache droops, your social status might droop along with it. Historians still argue whether the facial hair craze was a reaction to the rise of women's rights or a biological theory about filtering dust. Some people back then actually believed that a thick mustache acted as a natural air filter, protecting a man's lungs from the soot and smoke of the industrial city. You breathe in deeply through your nose, feeling the air move through the waxed hairs. It does not feel much cleaner, but it certainly feels more substantial. Whether it is for health or for fashion, you are committed to the look. You spend another several minutes ensuring the symmetry is perfect. If the left side curls higher than the right, you look less like a gentleman and more like someone who has had a very confusing morning. The process of grooming is a quiet time of reflection. You think about how different your life is compared to your grandfather's time. He would have used a straight razor every morning, scraping his skin until it was as smooth as a polished stone. He would have looked at you and wondered if you were hiding a secret behind all that hair. But to you, the hair is a shield. It gives you a sense of gravity. When you walk into a room, your mustache arrives a few seconds before the rest of your face does. It commands respect, or at least, it commands attention. You give the ends one final twist, feeling the wax begin to harden and set. You move to your wardrobe to select a suit. Everything in this world is heavy and structured. The wool of your coat is thick, and your collar is starched so firmly that it feels like a piece of plastic against your neck. You wrap a silk cravat around your throat, tucking it neatly into your waistcoat. Every layer of clothing is designed to show that you are a man of order and discipline. Your mustache is the finishing touch, the crown on top of a very complicated outfit. You feel ready to face the world, or at least ready to face the breakfast table. But as you look at the clock, a small feeling of anxiety creeps into your stomach. Breakfast means liquids. Breakfast means tea, coffee, and perhaps a bowl of warm porridge. For a man with a waxed mustache, these are the enemies. If the steam from the tea hits the wax, it starts to soften. If the milk from the porridge touches the hair, it leaves a sticky residue that is nearly impossible to clean without starting the whole grooming process over again. You remember the time you tried to eat a piece of buttered toast too quickly. and ended up with crumbs stuck deep in the follicles. It took 20 minutes to recover your dignity. You moved toward the door, your boots making a dull thud on the wooden floorboards. The hallway is dim, lit only by a small window at the far end. You pass a portrait of your uncle, whose mustache was so large it looked like he was balancing a pair of wings on his lip. He was a man of great importance, but you always wondered how he managed to breathe during a heavy rainstorm. You walk down the stairs, the banister feeling cool and smooth under your hand. The house is waking up. You hear the soft clatter of plates in the kitchen and the distant sound of a horse and carriage passing by on the street outside. The world is busy, but in this moment, you are focused on the task of navigating your morning meal without a disaster. You enter the dining room, where the table is set with white linen and silver. The smell of frying bacon and toasted bread is wonderful, but you approach the chair with caution. You sit down, adjusting your coat. In front of you is a silver spoon. It is a standard spoon, wide and deep, designed to hold a generous amount of liquid. You look at it with a sense of dread. You know that as soon as you lift that spoon to your mouth, the liquid will spill over the edges and soak into your mustache. It is an inevitable part of life, a constant struggle between the desire for nourishment and the desire for style. You could choose to be careful. You could take tiny, dainty sips, tilting your head back like a bird. But that would look ridiculous. A gentleman must be effortless. He must be able to eat and drink without looking like he is performing a difficult gymnastic routine. You pick up the spoon and dip it into a bowl of soup that has been placed before you. It is a thick, creamy vegetable soup. As you bring the spoon toward your face, you feel the warmth of the steam. You can almost feel the wax beginning to lose its grip. You stop, the spoon hovering just inches from your lips. You realize that there has to be a better way. This struggle is what led to the creation of the very objects that define your era's ingenuity. You have heard of special devices, little silver guards that clip onto the side of a cup or a spoon, designed specifically to keep the hair out of the soup. You do not have one yet, but you are starting to see why they are becoming so popular. The mustache is a commitment, and like any commitment, it requires the right tools. You think about the inventors sitting in their workshops, trying to solve the great problem of the 19th century, the soggy mustache. It is a funny thought, but the consequences are real. A stained mustache is a social failure. You decide to take the risk. You tilt the spoon and take a sip. Immediately, you feel the cool, wet sensation of the soup against the underside of your mustache. It is exactly what you feared. You quickly reach for your linen napkin and dab at your face, hoping that no one saw the minor catastrophe. The wax holds for now, but you know that by the end of the meal, you will need to retreat to the mirror for repairs. This is the life of a Victorian gentleman. It is a life of beauty and structure, but it is also a life of constant maintenance and the occasional piece of vegetable stuck in your facial hair. You lean back in your chair, watching the steam rise from a pot of tea. The sunlight is finally breaking through the fog, casting long, golden streaks across the tablecloth. You feel a sense of calm, despite the soup incident. There is something satisfying about the effort you put into your appearance. It shows that you care about the details. It shows that you belong to this world of heavy furniture and complicated manners. You take a slow breath, feeling the air move through your perfectly shaped mustache. You are part of a grand tradition, a movement of men who decided that hair was more important than convenience. As the morning progresses, you think about the day ahead. You have meetings to attend and people to see. Each interaction will require you to be at your best. You will need to speak clearly, without your mustache muffled by the weight of the wax. You will need to look composed, even if you are secretly worried about a stray crumb. You finish your breakfast, carefully wiping your face one last time. You stand up, smoothing your waistcoat and checking your reflection in the silver teapot. You look dignified. You look ready. The world outside is waiting. You hear the sound of the front door opening and the bustle of the city growing louder. You step out into the hallway, your mind wandering to the history of the men who came before you and the men who will come after. They might not understand why you spend so much time on a few inches of hair. They might find the idea of a mustache trainer or a special spoon to be silly. But for you, in this moment, it is the most natural thing in the world. It is the price of being a modern man in 1860. You reach for your hat and gloves, feeling a quiet sense of pride. You walk toward the door, the cool morning air greeting you as you step outside. The fog has lifted, revealing a city of stone and iron. You join the flow of people, a sea of top hats and dark coats, and everywhere you look, you see them. Mustaches of every shape and size, bristling in the morning light. You are not alone in your struggle or your style. You are part of a hairy brotherhood, a generation defined by the hair on their faces and the clever inventions they use to protect it. You walk with a steady pace, the rhythm of your boots matching the heartbeat of the city. The journey has only just begun. There are so many more stories to tell about the things people do for fashion. There are stories about the tools they use, the rules they follow, and the ways they try to make life just a little bit more comfortable. As you walk, you feel the weight of your mustache, a constant reminder of the era you live in. It is a heavy weight, but it is one you carry gladly. You move forward into the day, a gentleman of the Victorian age, ready for whatever challenges and whatever soups the world might throw your way. The street is paved with cobblestones that feel uneven under your feet. You notice the way the light catches the brass buttons on a passing policeman's jacket. Everything feels solid and permanent. You pass a shop window filled with silverware, and your eyes linger on the intricate designs of the spoons and forks. You wonder if any of them have that special guard you have heard about. You imagine how much easier your life would be if you didn't have to worry about every bite of food. It is a small thing, a tiny piece of silver, but it represents a whole world of thought and care. You turn a corner and see a group of young men standing together, their mustaches still thin and new. They look at you with a bit of envy, noticing the fullness and the perfect curl of your facial hair. You give them a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement of the path they are starting on. It takes years to achieve this look. It takes patience and a lot of wax. But in the end, it is worth it. You feel a sense of connection to these strangers, all of them participating in the same grand theater of appearance. You continue your walk, the city unfolding around you like a giant, complicated machine. The air is getting warmer now, and the scent of the city is changing. The smell of coal is being replaced by the scent of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. You feel a slight itch under your mustache, but you resist the urge to scratch it. You don't want to ruin the symmetry. You have learned to live with the small discomforts for the sake of the larger picture. It is a lesson that applies to many things in your life. You keep your head held high, your eyes focused on the path ahead. The day is full of possibilities, and you are ready to meet them all, one perfectly waxed step at a time. As the pale afternoon light fades into the deep indigo of a London evening, you find yourself standing before a heavy mahogany door. The damp chill of the street is left behind as you step into a foyer bathed in the flickering, warm glow of gaslight. The transition from the brisk outdoors to the scented interior of a grand home is a sensory shift you know well. There is the faint smell of roasted meat, the sweet aroma of beeswax candles, and the subtle, sharp tang of the starch in your own collar. You hand your coat and hat to a silent attendant, feeling a sudden, heightened awareness of the hair on your face. This evening is not just a social gathering, it is a tactical challenge. You are attending a formal dinner, an event where your mustache will be under constant scrutiny from every person in the room. You take a deep breath, feeling the wax firmly holding your mustache in place, and move toward the drawing room. In this era, a dinner party is a marathon of endurance and etiquette. One mainstream historical fact about these gatherings is that they often consisted of 10 to 12 individual courses, stretching for several hours. Each course presents its own set of dangers, but none is more feared by a gentleman of style than the first. The soup. You find your place at the long, gleaming table, where the silver is polished so brightly that you can see your own distorted reflection in the back of a spoon. The crystal glasses sparkle under the chandelier, and the white linen tablecloth is so crisp it looks like a sheet of fallen snow. You sit down, the heavy wool of your trousers pressing against your legs, and prepare for the ordeal to begin. The atmosphere is quiet and refined, filled with the soft murmur of polite conversation and the gentle clink of silverware against porcelain. You look around the table, noticing the other men. Each one is a master of facial architecture. There are mutton chops that look like small bushes growing from the jawline, and there are mustaches that span the width of a dinner plate. You see a man across from you with a particularly impressive set of imperial whiskers, curled so tightly at the ends they look like little springs. You wonder if he is as nervous as you are. You recall the stories of men who accidentally dipped their facial hair into a bowl of turtle soup, only to have the grease ruin their afternoon's work in a single second. It is a shared, silent anxiety among your kind. You adjust your silk cravat, feeling the stiffness of your shirt, and try to look relaxed. You remember that crocodile dung sunscreen people used to use in ancient times, and you think that perhaps, in some ways, history has always asked people to do strange things for the sake of their appearance. The servants begin to move around the table with practiced, rhythmic grace. They carry silver tureens that release clouds of savory steam into the air. This steam is your first enemy. As the bowl of clear consommé is placed before you, the warmth rises up, hitting your face like a soft, moist blanket. You can feel the heat working against the wax you applied so carefully this morning. The beeswax begins to soften, losing its structural integrity. You fear that the sharp points you sculpted will start to droop, turning your elegant mustache into a pair of sad, wet wings. You sit as far back from the bowl as possible while still appearing polite, but the steam is persistent. It finds every hair, every fiber, gently coaxing them to give up their shape. Historians still argue whether these complex dining rules were intentionally designed to be a social filter, a way to separate the truly refined from those who were merely pretending. To eat a bowl of hot soup with a 6-inch mustache without making a mess requires a level of focus and physical control that is almost athletic. You pick up your spoon, the silver feeling heavy and cool in your hand. This is a standard soup spoon, a deep, wide basin that seems designed to catch as much liquid and as much hair as possible. You know the physics of the situation all too well. When you tilt the spoon to your mouth, the liquid will naturally try to follow the path of least resistance, which usually means flowing right into the thickest part of your mustache. It is a phenomenon known as capillary action, where the tiny spaces between the hairs act like a sponge, drawing the soup upward and away from your mouth. You wait for the soup to cool, just a fraction of a degree. You watch the surface of the liquid, looking for the moment the steam lessens. A quirky and fringe tidbit of Victorian life is that some men actually carried mustache napkins, which were smaller, more absorbent pieces of cloth specifically intended for dabbing the face between spoonfuls. You do not have one of these, so you must rely on your standard dinner napkin, which is currently draped across your lap like a heavy, white flag. You take your first sip. You are careful, extremely careful. You tilt your head back at a precise angle, trying to create a clear path for the soup to enter your mouth without touching the overhanging hair. You can feel the edge of the mustache hovering just millimeters above the hot liquid. It is a moment of intense tension. The flavor of the soup is wonderful, rich, salty, and warm, but you can barely enjoy it because you are so focused on the physical sensations on your lip. You feel a tiny droplet of liquid catch on a single stray hair. It feels like a heavy weight, threatening to fall and leave a visible stain on your shirt front. You slowly lower the spoon, keeping your face as still as a statue. You reach for your napkin and dab at your mouth with a motion so subtle you hope it looks like a casual gesture of refinement, rather than a desperate rescue mission. You check the napkin for signs of grease. If the soup is particularly oily, it will leave a dark mark on the hair that will catch the light of the candles, broadcasting your failure to the entire room. As you continue through the bowl, you think about how much simpler life must be for the ladies at the table. Their faces are smooth and clear, their only concern being the careful navigation of their long sleeves and heavy skirts. They look at you and the other men with a mix of admiration and, perhaps, a hidden amusement. They see the effort you put into your appearance, the way you guard your facial hair as if it were a precious heirloom. You feel the weight of social expectation. In this room, your mustache is not just hair, it is your reputation. If you finish this soup with a clean face, you are a man of discipline and grace. If you fail, you are just another clumsy fellow who cannot manage his own vanity. The rhythm of the dinner continues. You hear the soft thud of a wine cork being pulled and the melodic pour of liquid into crystal. The sounds are soothing, almost hypnotic. You feel your shoulders begin to relax. even as you maintain your rigid posture. You are becoming a master of the hover and sip technique. You notice the man next to you is struggling. He has a very long, drooping mustache that seems determined to drown itself in the consommé. Every time he lifts his spoon, he has to use his free hand to move the hair out of the way. It is a clumsy, unrefined movement that draws pained looks from the hostess. You feel a surge of pride that you are managing without such desperate measures. You are a professional of the dinner table. However, the heat of the room is starting to take its toll. The fire in the hearth is roaring, and the dozens of candles are adding their own warmth to the air. You feel a bead of sweat forming on your forehead, and more importantly, you feel the wax on your mustache becoming increasingly pliable. It is no longer a rigid frame. It is becoming a soft, sticky paste. You realize that you cannot stay in this humid environment for much longer without a disaster. You think about the inventors who are currently working on the mustache cup and the mustache spoon, those legendary devices you have heard about in whispery advertisements in the back of newspapers. You imagine a spoon with a little silver bridge across the top, a guard that would act like a dam, holding back the hair while allowing the soup to pass through a small opening. It sounds like a dream. It sounds like salvation. You finish the last of your soup, feeling a profound sense of relief. You have survived the first and most dangerous hurdle of the evening. The servant arrives to whisk away your empty bowl, and you catch a glimpse of yourself in the silver platter he carries. Your mustache is still mostly in place, though the ends have lost some of their sharp, aggressive curl. They look a little softer, a little more natural, which is perhaps not a bad thing as the evening progresses. You take a sip of cool water, the chilled glass feeling wonderful against your skin. The water is safe. It does not steam, and it does not contain the treacherous fats of a soup. You feel like a survivor who has just crossed a dangerous river and reached the safety of the far bank. But the night is young. There are still many courses to come. You know that the fish course will involve sauces, and the main course will involve gravy. Each one is a new challenge for your facial hair. You think about the sheer amount of mental energy you spend on this every single day. It is a constant background task, a program running in your mind that monitors the position and cleanliness of your mustache. You wonder if men in the future will still do this. Will they still spend their mornings with wax and their evenings with anxiety? Or will they return to the clean, shaven faces of your grandfather's time, trading the glory of the mustache for the convenience of a simple meal? It is hard to imagine a world without this hair, but the effort required to maintain it is truly exhausting. You lean back slightly, watching the candlelight dance in your wine glass. The room is filled with a soft, golden haze. You feel a sense of camaraderie with the other men. You are all part of this strange, hairy club, bound by the same rules and the same struggles. You have all agreed that this look is worth the trouble, that the statement made by a well-groomed mustache is more important than the ease of eating a bowl of soup. It is a choice you make every morning when you reach for that tin of wax. You are a Victorian gentleman, and this is your burden to bear. You feel a quiet sense of peace, a relaxation that comes from knowing you have navigated the most difficult part of the evening. The conversation around you becomes a gentle hum, a background noise that blends with the clink of silverware. You find yourself drifting into a state of calm observation. You notice the way the light reflects off the mahogany wood of the table, the deep red of the wine, and the intricate patterns on the wallpaper. Everything in this room is designed to be beautiful and permanent. Your mustache is part of that beauty, a temporary but striking addition to the landscape. You realize that the struggle is part of the point. If it were easy to have a mustache like this, it wouldn't be a sign of status. The difficulty is what makes it valuable. You are showing the world that you have the time, the money, and the self-control to maintain something so delicate and demanding. As the plates for the next course are brought in, you feel a new sense of confidence. You have tested yourself against the soup and won. You feel ready for the fish, the roast, and the dessert. You will move through this evening with the same grace and discipline you apply to everything else in your life. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air move through your mustache. It feels heavy and substantial, a comforting presence on your face. You are a man of the 19th century, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. The world outside may be cold and foggy, but in here, there is warmth, light, and the quiet satisfaction of a well-maintained mustache. You think about the history of this trend once more. You recall how the soldiers in the Crimea were allowed to grow their hair because the cold was so bitter that shaving caused their skin to crack and bleed. What began as a practical necessity in a war zone has become a height of fashion in a London dining room. It is a strange path for a piece of style to take. You wonder if those soldiers, shivering in their trenches, ever imagined that their rugged look would lead to the invention of specialized silverware. It is the kind of quirky detail that makes history so fascinating. You find yourself smiling slightly, careful not to crack the drying wax on your upper lip. The evening continues, a slow and steady progression of tastes and sounds. You find yourself enjoying the experience more now that the initial fear has passed. You are part of a grand performance, a ritual of civilization that has been refined over centuries. Every movement you make, every word you speak, is part of this dance. And at the center of it all is your mustache, a silent participant in the social life of the city. You feel a sense of connection to the past and the future, a realization that you are just one link in a long chain of people who have cared deeply about how they present themselves to the world. You watch the hostess as she laughs at a joke from the man at the head of the table. Her face is bright and lively, framed by the elaborate curls of her hair. Everyone in this room has spent hours preparing for this moment. The effort is hidden, masked by the ease of the social interaction. But you know it is there. You see it in the way the men adjust their collars and the way the women move their fans. It is a world of careful construction. Your mustache is just one small part of a much larger picture, a piece of a puzzle that fits together to create the Victorian age. You feel a deep sense of belonging, a comfort in the rules and the structure of your life. As the meal moves toward its conclusion, you feel a gentle tiredness settling over you. The warmth of the room and the richness of the food are making your eyes feel heavy. You are content to simply sit and listen to the flow of voices, the sounds rising and falling like the waves of a calm sea. You feel the weight of your mustache, a familiar and grounding sensation. It is a reminder of who you are and the world you inhabit. You have navigated the messy challenge of the evening soup, and you have emerged with your dignity intact. It is a small victory, but in this world, small victories are the ones that matter most. You look at the silver spoon one last time before it is taken away. It looks so simple, so innocent, but you know the truth. You know the danger it represents to a man of fashion. You feel a renewed interest in those special mustache spoons you've heard about. Perhaps tomorrow you will visit a silversmith and see if such a thing actually exists. The thought of a guarded spoon, a shield against the liquid menace, is incredibly appealing. It would be a tool of liberation, a way to enjoy a meal without the constant shadow of a soup stash hanging over you. You imagine the feeling of the silver guard against your hair, a cold and reassuring barrier. The dinner party is beginning to wind down. The guests will soon retreat to the drawing room for coffee and perhaps a game of cards. You feel a sense of accomplishment. You have represented yourself well. You have maintained the standards of your class and your time. You stand up as the ladies rise to leave the room, feeling the familiar weight of your suit and the stiffness of your collar. You are a gentleman, a man of the Victorian era, and your mustache is a symbol of everything you stand for. You follow the other men out of the room, your boots making a quiet, steady rhythm on the floor. As you walk, you feel the cool air of the hallway, a welcome relief from the heat of the dining room. You touch your mustache one last time, checking the ends. They are a bit soft, but they have held their shape. You have survived the evening. You have faced the challenge of the soup and come out on top. You feel a sense of peace, a quiet satisfaction that comes from a job well done. The night is still young, but for you, the hardest part is over. You move toward the next part of the evening, ready for whatever comes next. A man of style and substance in a world of gaslight and shadows. The morning after the dinner party brings a new sense of purpose. You wake up with the memory of that close call with the vegetable soup still fresh in your mind. The sun is a bit brighter today, casting long rectangles of gold across your wooden floorboards. You sit at your small desk, touching the ends of your mustache, which feels slightly stiff from a fresh application of wax. You have decided that you cannot go on living in fear of every liquid meal. You have heard rumors of a specific tool, a piece of silver engineering designed to solve this very problem. You decide to take a walk toward the heart of the city, where the master silversmiths keep their shops. The air outside is crisp and smells of damp stone and early morning baking. You walk with a steady pace, your boots making a rhythmic, muffled sound on the pavement. You find yourself standing in front of a shop with a dark green wooden front and a large glass window. Inside, the shelves are lined with velvet boxes and gleaming objects that catch the morning light. You step inside, and a small bell above the door rings with a soft, clear tone. The shop is quiet and smells of metal polish and old wood. A man in a dark apron stands behind the counter, his own mustache a perfectly groomed masterpiece of silver and gray. He does not speak, but he watches you with a knowing look. You move toward a glass case where the specialized cutlery is displayed. There, resting on a bed of blue silk, you see it for the very first time, the mustache spoon. It is a beautiful and strange object. At first glance, it looks like a standard, elegant soup spoon, but across the top of the bowl, there is a small, curved bridge of silver. This bridge acts as a protective guard, a physical barrier between the liquid in the spoon and the hair on your face. You look at the intricate engravings on the handle, noticing the delicate patterns of leaves and vines. One mainstream historical fact about these items is that they became incredibly popular in the mid to late 1860s, specifically following a patent by an American inventor named Solon Shumway in 1868. Even though the mustache was a global trend, it was this specific era of Victorian ingenuity that turned a simple eating utensil into a complex piece of defensive technology. You lean closer to the glass, studying the design. The guard is not just a flat piece of metal, it is elegantly shaped, often with a small, semi-circular opening near the edge of the spoon. This opening allows the soup to flow through into your mouth, while the solid silver bridge holds your mustache up and away from the moisture. It is a simple solution to a very messy problem. You imagine yourself using it at a dinner party, the silver guard resting gently against your waxed hair, providing a cold and reassuring shield. You feel a sense of excitement, the kind of quiet thrill one feels when discovering a tool that makes life just a little bit more manageable. As you observe the different models on display, you notice that some are more ornate than others. Some have guards that are fixed in place, while others have small hinges, allowing the guard to be moved for cleaning. A quirky and fringed tidbit of Victorian silver making is that some high-end silversmiths offered custom-made mustache spoons with adjustable guards. These were designed to match the specific width and loft of a gentleman's mustache. If you had a particularly bushy or wide mustache, you could have a spoon tailored exactly to your facial dimensions. It seems like the height of luxury, a piece of silverware as personal as a tailored suit or a pair of handmade boots. You smile at the thought of a silversmith measuring a man's mustache with a tiny ruler, just to ensure the spoon fits perfectly. The shopkeeper reaches into the case and pulls out a particularly fine specimen for you to examine. He places it on a soft cloth on the counter. You pick it up, feeling the surprising weight of the solid sterling silver. It feels balanced and comfortable in your hand. The metal is cool to the touch, and the surface is so polished that you can see a tiny, clear version of your own eye reflecting back at you. You run your finger along the guard, feeling the smooth edge. It is a triumph of form and function. You think about the hours of work that went into creating this single object. The way the silver was heated, hammered, and engraved to meet the needs of a very specific fashion trend. Historians still argue whether the mustache spoon was a common household item or a luxury reserved only for the ultra-wealthy. While many were made of expensive silver, some versions were later produced in more affordable metals like electroplated nickel silver, suggesting that the middle class was also eager to protect their facial hair from the dangers of the dinner table. You look at the price tag and realize that even the simpler versions represent a significant investment. But can you really put a price on your dignity? You think back to the soup incident of the previous night, the feeling of the grease on your lip, and the frantic dabbing with the napkin. In that light, the spoon seems like a bargain. It is an insurance policy for your social standing. You decide that you must have it. You point to the spoon, and the shopkeeper begins to wrap it in layers of soft tissue paper. He places it into a small, sturdy box lined with satin. As you wait, you look around the shop at the other inventions of the age. There are specialized forks for sardines, tiny knives for fruit, and elaborate tongues for sugar cubes. The Victorians loved to create a specific tool for every possible task. It was a way of bringing order to the world, of ensuring that everything had its proper place and its proper method. The mustache spoon is the perfect example of this philosophy. It takes a natural, somewhat chaotic element like facial hair and subjects it to the discipline of silver and etiquette. You pay for the spoon, the coins making a soft, metallic sound as you place them on the counter. You tuck the box into the deep pocket of your coat, feeling its weight against your hip. As you step back out into the street, the world feels a little bit different. You are no longer just a man with a mustache. You are a man with a plan. You feel a new sense of confidence as you walk through the crowded city. You pass a cafe where men are sitting outside, carefully sipping their coffee and tea. You see one man struggle with a large pastry, a flake of crust getting caught in his whiskers. You feel a momentary flash of pity for him, knowing that you have a secret weapon tucked away in your pocket. You decide to stop at a quiet tea room to test your new acquisition. You find a small table in a corner, far away from the noise of the main road. The room is warm and smells of Earl Grey and toasted muffins. You order a bowl of simple beef broth, the kind of liquid that would usually cause you a great deal of anxiety. When the bowl arrives, steaming and fragrant, you wait for the server to leave before reaching into your pocket. You pull out the box, open the satin lid, and lift the mustache spoon into the light. It looks even more impressive here than it did in the shop. The silver gleams against the white tablecloth. You dip the spoon into the broth. You watch as the liquid fills the bowl of the spoon, rising up to the level of the silver guard. You lift the spoon to your mouth, your heart beating just a little bit faster. This is the moment of truth. As the spoon approaches your face, you feel the cold metal of the bridge make contact with the bottom of your mustache. It fits perfectly. The bridge gently lifts the hair, creating a clear, dry space. You tilt the spoon, and the warm broth flows through the opening and into your mouth. Not a single drop touches your mustache. You feel the warmth of the soup, but your lip remains perfectly dry and clean. It is a revelation. You take another spoonful, and then another, growing more confident with each bite. The experience of eating is completely transformed. Instead of focusing on the physical mechanics of avoiding a mess, you can actually taste the food. You can enjoy the richness of the broth and the subtle flavors of the herbs. You feel a sense of liberation, a freedom that you haven't felt in years. It is as if a great weight has been lifted from your shoulders, or more accurately, from your upper lip. You lean back in your chair, a small, satisfied smile playing across your face. You are a modern man, using modern technology to navigate the challenges of the world. As you finish your soup, you think about the history of silver. You remember that people once used silver for its antimicrobial properties, though they didn't quite understand the science behind it. They just knew that water kept in a silver pitcher stayed fresh longer. Now, silver has a new purpose. It is the guardian of the mustache. You look at the spoon, which is now coated in a thin film of broth. You reach for your napkin and gently wipe the silver clean, the metal returning to its original shine. You feel a sense of responsibility toward this object. It is a fine tool, and it deserves to be cared for. You place it back in its satin-lined box, the lid closing with a soft, satisfying sound. You sit for a while, watching the other people in the tea room. You notice a gentleman a few tables over who is attempting to eat a bowl of pea soup. He is using a standard spoon, and the results are predictable. Every few seconds, he has to stop and wipe his face, his expression one of intense concentration and slight frustration. You feel a strong urge to go over and show him your new spoon, to share the joy of a clean mustache. But you remain in your seat, maintaining the quiet reserve of a gentleman. You are part of an elite group now, those who know the secret of the guarded spoon. It is a quiet, silver revolution. The afternoon sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the tea room. You feel a sense of calm and contentment. The struggle of the previous night seems like a distant memory. You think about the dinner parties of the future, the formal events where you will be able to eat with grace and ease. You imagine the looks of admiration from your fellow guests as they see you navigating the soup course without a single misstep. You might even be asked about your spoon, allowing you to discuss the merits of its design and the skill of the silversmith who made it. It will be a wonderful conversation starter. You stand up, smoothing your waistcoat and checking your reflection in a nearby mirror. Your mustache is still perfectly in place, the wax holding firm and the hair clean and dry. You feel a sense of pride in your appearance, a feeling that is bolstered by the knowledge that you have the right tools for the job. You leave the tea room and step back into the cool evening air. The city is starting to wake up for the night, the gas lamps being lit one by one. You walk with a light step, the small box in your pocket a constant, reassuring presence. As you walk home, you think about the nature of progress. Sometimes progress means big inventions like the steam engine or the telegraph. But sometimes it means small, clever things like a silver bridge on a soup spoon. These are the inventions that make daily life just a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more civilized. They are the details that define an era. In the years to come, people might look back at the mustache spoon and find it amusing or even ridiculous. They might not understand why a man would go to such lengths just to keep his facial hair dry. But you understand. You live in a world where appearance and etiquette are the foundation of society, and you are happy to play your part. You reach your front door and turn the key in the lock. The house is quiet and warm. You go to your room and place the box with the mustachy spoon on your dressing table, right next to your tin of wax and your mustache trainer. It looks like it belongs there. It is the final piece of your grooming kit, the missing link in your daily routine. You feel a sense of completeness. You are ready for anything the world might throw at you, whether it is a formal dinner, a windy day on the streets, or a particularly challenging bowl of soup. You sit down in your armchair, feeling the tiredness of the day finally catching up with you. The room is dim, the only light coming from the street lamp outside. You close your eyes and imagine the rhythm of the silversmith's hammer, the steady, rhythmic sound of metal being shaped into beauty. You think about the thousands of other men who are, at this very moment, grooming their mustaches and preparing for their own evening challenges. You are all part of the same story, a story of hair, silver, and the pursuit of a perfect image. You feel a deep sense of peace, a relaxation that comes from knowing you have found a solution to a problem that has plagued you for so long. The mustache spoon is more than just a piece of cutlery. It is a symbol of an age that valued the small details. It is a testament to the idea that even the most mundane parts of life can be elevated through design and craftsmanship. As you drift toward sleep, you feel a quiet gratitude for the inventors and the makers, the people who saw a problem and decided to fix it with a bit of silver and a lot of imagination. You feel the weight of your own mustache, soft and familiar against your lip. It is a good weight. It is the weight of history. You think about the call of the morning, the routine that will begin all over again. You will wake up, apply your wax, and shape your mustache into its daily form. But tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow, you will not have to worry about your breakfast. You will not have to worry about your tea or your soup. You have the spoon. You have the guard. You have the silver bridge that will carry you through the day with grace and style. You feel a slow, deep breath move through your lungs, the air passing through the perfectly groomed hairs of your mustache. It is a calm and steady rhythm, a pulse that matches the quiet heart of the house. The world outside continues its busy dance, but in here, there is only the soft hum of the evening and the quiet satisfaction of a well-prepared man. You are a Victorian gentleman, and you have mastered the art of living in a world of hair and silver. You feel a final, sleepy thought about the beauty of the spoon, the way the light catches the engravings, and the cool feel of the metal. It is a beautiful thing. It is a necessary thing. And it is yours. You drift off into a deep, dreamless sleep, the memory of the silver guard a comforting presence in your mind. The journey of the mustache spoon has only just begun for you. There are so many meals to eat, so many conversations to have, and so many ways to show the world that you are a man of taste and discernment. You are ready, you are prepared, and you are, most importantly, perfectly groomed. The night is quiet, the city is still, and you are at peace. The mustache spoon rests in its satin box, waiting for the morning, a silent sentinel of style in a world that values the fine art of the gentleman. The afternoon sun hangs low in the sky, casting a warm, honey-colored glow across the drawing room. You are sitting on a chair that is far too decorative to be comfortable, surrounded by the soft rustle of silk and the quiet chime of delicate porcelain. This is the hour of tea, a ritual that is as much about social survival as it is about refreshment. You feel the weight of your mustache, now reinforced with a fresh layer of wax for the afternoon session. It feels stiff and reliable, like a well-built fence protecting your mouth from the world. You remember the mustache trainer you wore last night, its gentle pressure helping to guide your hair into this perfect upward sweep. You are thankful for that preparation now, as you face a table laden with tiny, dangerous treats. One mainstream historical fact about this tradition is that afternoon tea was popularized by Anna, the Duchess of Bedford, in the early 1840s. She found that she had a sinking feeling in the late afternoon because there were only 2 meals a day back then, breakfast and a very late dinner. She began asking for tea and light snacks in her room, and soon the entire British upper class was following her lead. Now, you are part of that legacy, sitting in a room filled with people who are all trying to look perfectly relaxed while following 1,000 unwritten rules. You look at your host, a woman whose lace collar is so high it seems to be holding her chin up for her. She pours the tea with a steady hand, the liquid a dark, amber stream that catches the light. You reach for your cup, feeling the thin, fragile handle between your fingers. This is the moment where your grooming meets your social grace. The tea is hot, and the steam rises in a thin, elegant curl. You know that if you bring this cup directly to your lips, the steam will go straight into your mustache, softening the wax and potentially causing a catastrophic droop. You think about the crocodile, dung sunscreen of ancient times and realize that while your beauty routine is cleaner, it is no less complicated. You wait for a moment, letting the tea cool just enough. You have learned that patience is the greatest tool a mustachioed gentleman can possess. You watch the other men in the room, noticing how they navigate their own facial hair. Some use the hover technique you mastered with the soup, while others have brought their own specialized equipment. A quirky and fringe tidbit of Victorian high society is that some men actually owned traveling tea sets. That included a small, silver mustache guard that could be clipped onto any standard tea cup. It was a portable shield, a way to ensure that no matter where a gentleman went, his mustache would remain dry and his wax would remain firm. You don't have a clip on guard today, but you do have your trusty mustache spoon hidden in your pocket, just in case things get difficult. For now, you focus on the cup. You take a small, careful sip. The tea is fragrant with the scent of bergamot and wood smoke. You feel the warmth on your tongue, and you are relieved to find that your lip remains dry. You have avoided the first trap of the afternoon. Historians still argue whether these elaborate tea rituals were a way to promote genuine social connection, or if they were designed as a complex system of social control. By creating so many rules about how to hold a cup, how to eat a sandwich, and how to maintain one's appearance, the upper class could easily spot someone who didn't belong. You feel the weight of that observation as you look around the room. Every movement is scrutinized. If you were to drop a crumb or, heaven forbid, get a splash of tea on your whiskers, it would be noticed. You adjust your posture, feeling the stiff wool of your coat against your back. You are a performer in a very slow, very quiet play. The food arrives on a 3-tiered silver stand. The bottom tier is filled with tiny, crustless sandwiches. They look innocent enough, but you know better. A cucumber sandwich is a minefield of moisture and potential crumbs. You carefully select one, using only 2 fingers as the rules dictate. You bring it toward your mouth, feeling the cool, damp texture of the bread. This is where the mustache trainer really pays off. Because the hair is swept so far to the sides, you have a clear opening to take a bite without the sandwich touching the hair. You take a small, dainty bite, chewing slowly and carefully. You feel like a surgeon performing a delicate operation. The flavor is light and refreshing, a perfect contrast to the heavy, waxed sensation on your face. As you eat, you find yourself drifting into a state of calm observation. The room is filled with the soft hum of polite conversation, a sound like a distant hive of bees. You hear the occasional clink of a silver spoon against a saucer, a bright, metallic note that cuts through the mumble of voices. You feel a sense of pride in your ability to navigate this environment. You remember the soup incident from the previous night, and you realize how far you have come. You are no longer a novice. You are a master of the high society table. You take another sip of tea, the liquid feeling smooth and comforting. You are in control of your appearance, and therefore you are in control of your world. You notice a young man across from you who is clearly struggling. He has a new, rather thin mustache that he hasn't quite learned to manage yet. He takes a large bite of a scone, and immediately a cloud of powdered sugar erupts, coating his upper lip in a white, snowy dust. He looks panicked, reaching for his napkin with a quick, jerky motion that draws the attention of several people nearby. You feel a flash of sleepy humor at his plight. It is a classic amateur mistake. One should never attempt a scone without a plan. You give him a small, encouraging nod, a silent message from one hairy gentleman to another. We have all been there, you think. We have all faced the powdered sugar of social ruin. The afternoon continues at a leisurely pace. Time seems to slow down in this room, measured only by the refilling of teapots and the slow movement of shadows across the floor. You find yourself focusing on the textures around you. The roughness of the wool, the smoothness of the porcelain, the slight stickiness of the wax on your lip. Everything is tactile, everything is physical. You feel a deep sense of connection to the objects you use. Your cup, your spoon, your napkin, they are not just tools. They are extensions of your own body. They help you maintain the barrier between your inner self and the outside world. You think about the history of the mustache again, how it became a symbol of British identity during the height of the empire. It is a strange thing, when you think about it, how a few inches of hair can carry so much meaning. It represents strength, authority, and a commitment to tradition. But it also represents a willingness to endure a great deal of inconvenience. You wonder if the people in this room realize the irony of it all. They spend their lives trying to look powerful and effortless, yet they are all slaves to a few ounces of beeswax and a silver spoon. You smile to yourself, a tiny movement that you are careful not to let disturb the symmetry of your face. The conversation turns to the latest news from the city, but you are content to simply listen. You enjoy the rhythm of the voices, the way they rise and fall in a predictable pattern. It is a soothing sound, one that makes you feel a bit drowsy. The warmth of the room and the richness of the tea are starting to take their toll. You feel your eyelids grow heavy, but you maintain your upright posture. A gentleman never slumps, even when he is feeling sleepy. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air move through your nose and past the waxed tips of your mustache. It is a grounding sensation, one that keeps you present in the moment. You decide to try one of the small cakes on the middle tier. It is a tiny sponge cake topped with a swirl of pink icing. This is the ultimate test. The icing is soft and sticky, exactly the kind of thing that loves to cling to a mustache. You pick up a small silver fork, feeling its weight. You take a tiny piece of the cake, ensuring that there is no loose icing that might fall. You bring it to your mouth with a steady hand. Success! The cake is sweet and airy, melting on your tongue without leaving a trace on your face. You feel a sense of triumph. You have mastered the sandwich, the scone, and the cake. You are invincible. As the tea party begins to draw to a close, you feel a sense of satisfaction. You have represented yourself well, maintaining your dignity and your mustache through a series of difficult challenges. You stand up as the hostess signals the end of the ritual, feeling the familiar weight of your suit. You are ready to step back out into the world, a man who has proven his worth in the most civilized way possible. You walk toward the door, your boots making a quiet, steady rhythm on the carpet. You feel the cool air of the hallway, a welcome relief from the warmth of the drawing room. You think about the next time you will be called upon to perform this ritual. You know that it will always be a challenge, but you also know that you have the skills to handle it. You have your wax, you have your trainer, and you have your silver spoon. You are prepared for any social situation, no matter how many cucumber sandwiches or powdered scones are involved. You feel a quiet sense of peace, a relaxation that comes from knowing you have done your duty. The afternoon tea is over, but the story of the Victorian mustache continues. You step outside, and the evening air is crisp and clear. The sky is a deep purple, and the first stars are beginning to appear. You walk toward home, the city quiet and peaceful around you. You feel the weight of your mustache, a constant and comforting presence on your face. It is a reminder of the world you live in and the standards you uphold. You are a Victorian gentleman, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You move through the shadows, a figure of style and grace, ready for whatever the night might bring. The journey of the mustache has taught you a lot about the importance of the small things. It's not just about the hair, it's about the care you put into it. It's about the discipline of the morning routine and the focus required at the dinner table. It's about the tools you use and the rules you follow. These are the things that define a person's life, the small details that add up to something much larger. You feel a sense of gratitude for the complexity of your world, even if it means you have to be careful when you drink a cup of tea. As you walk, you think about the future again. Will there always be rituals like this? Will people always care about how they look and how they act in public? You suspect the answer is yes, though the specifics will change. The mustache might go out of fashion, and the tea party might become a relic of the past, but the desire for order and beauty will always remain. You feel a connection to the people who will come after you, the ones who will find their own ways to express their identity and their values. You are part of a long chain of human history, and you are proud of your place in it. You reach your street, the gas lamps casting long, flickering shadows on the cobblestones. The house is waiting for you, a place of warmth and quiet. You feel a sense of completion, as if you have finished a long and important task. You enter the house and move toward your room, your mind already thinking about the morning to come. You will wake up, you will apply your wax, and you will begin the process all over again. But for now, you are content to simply be. You sit in your armchair and look at the silver mustache spoon on your dressing table. It gleams in the low light, a silent witness to your success. The night is quiet, and the world is still. You feel a deep sense of peace, a relaxation that moves through your body like a slow, steady wave. You are a Victorian gentleman, and you have mastered the art of high society tea time. You have protected your mustache, you have followed the rules, and you have maintained your dignity. You are ready for sleep, a deep and dreamless rest that will prepare you for the challenges of tomorrow. You close your eyes, the memory of the bergamot and the silver guard a comforting presence in your mind. The stories of history are often about the big events, the wars, the inventions, the political movements. But the real history is in the small things, the daily routines, and the personal struggles. It's in the way a man grooms his face and the way he eats his soup. It's in the tools he uses and the rules he follows. These are the things that truly define an era, and they are the things that make history so fascinating. You feel a sense of wonder at the complexity of it all, a realization that even a simple spoon can tell a much larger story. As you drift towards sleep, you feel the weight of your mustache, soft and familiar against your lip. It is a good weight. It is the weight of tradition. You feel a slow, deep breath move through your lungs, the air passing through the perfectly groomed hairs of your mustache. It is a calm and steady rhythm, a pulse that matches the quiet heart of the house. The world outside continues its busy dance, but in here, there is only the soft hum of the evening and the quiet satisfaction of a well-prepared man. You are a Victorian gentleman, and you have mastered the art of living in a world of hair and silver. You feel a final, sleepy thought about the beauty of the tea ceremony, the way the light catches the porcelain and the warm feel of the cup. It is a beautiful thing. It is a necessary thing, and it is yours. You drift off into a deep, dreamless sleep, the memory of the afternoon sun and the silver guard a comforting presence in your mind. The journey of the mustache spoon has only just begun for you. There are so many more stories to tell, and you are ready to hear them all. The night deepens, and the city falls into a quiet slumber. You are at peace, a master of your own identity and your own style. You have navigated the challenges of high society with grace and skill, and you are ready for whatever the future might hold. You are a gentleman of the Victorian era, and your mustache is a symbol of everything you stand for. You sleep soundly, the quiet rhythm of your breathing the only sound in the room. The world is at rest, and so are you. You are back in the quiet sanctuary of your study, a room where the walls are lined with leather, bound books, and the air always carries a faint hint of old paper and cedarwood. The evening is deepening, and the shadows are stretching across the heavy rug. You sit at your desk, the small satin-lined box containing your mustache spoon resting before you. But next to it sits another object, a recent gift from a fellow member of the Gentlemen's Club. It is a mustache cup, a sturdy yet elegant piece of porcelain that represents the other side of the great Victorian war against moisture. You look from the silver spoon to the porcelain cup, weighing the merits of each. It is a choice between two different philosophies of grooming protection, two different ways of ensuring that your face remains a masterpiece of order. The mustache cup is a fascinating piece of domestic engineering. At first glance, it looks like an oversized teacup, perhaps a bit more substantial than the delicate china you handled at the afternoon tea party. But inside the rim, there is a fixed porcelain ledge that spans about half the opening. This ledge has a small, semi-circular hole in the center, designed for the liquid to pass through while the rest of the bridge supports. and protects your mustache. One mainstream historical fact about this invention is that it was the brainchild of Harvey Adams, a British potter from Staffordshire who first patented the design in the 1860s. He realized that the booming fashion for facial hair created a massive market for a cup that wouldn't ruin a man's grooming efforts. Within a few years, mustache cups were being exported all over the world, becoming a staple in every middle-class household. You pick up the cup, feeling the smooth, cool surface of the glazed porcelain. It is heavier than the spoon, designed for the steady environment of a breakfast table rather than the portable needs of a gentleman on the move. The pattern on this particular cup is a classic blue and white landscape, with tiny willow trees and bridges that seem to mimic the bridge inside the cup itself. You run your finger over the mustache ledge, noticing how it is shaped to follow the natural curve of a man's upper lip. It is a bit like a tiny balcony for your mouth. You imagine how much research must have gone into finding the perfect height and width for that ledge. If it were too high, you couldn't reach the T. If it were too low, the mustache would still get wet. As you examine the ledge, you think about the quirky and fringed tidbit of the left-handed mustache cup, because the mustache guard is built directly into the rim of the cup. It is directionally dependent. A standard cup is designed for a right-handed man to lift it to his face. If a left-handed man were to use it, the guard would be on the wrong side, and he would end up with a very soggy mustache indeed. To solve this, a very small number of left-handed mustache cups were produced, with the ledge mirrored for the opposite hand. These are incredibly rare now, as most left-handed gentlemen of your era simply learned to drink with their right hand to avoid the social stigma of being sinister. You find it amusing that Victorian engineering went so far as to create a specific piece of pottery for a small percentage of the population, just to save a few hairs from a splashing of Earl Grey. Historians still argue whether the invention of the mustache cup was a response to the popularity of the mustache, or if the convenience of the cup actually encouraged more men to grow them. It is a classic chicken and egg scenario of the 19th century. Did men start growing grander mustaches because they finally had the tools to keep them clean? Or did the tools only appear because the mustaches had become so unmanageable? You look at your own reflection in the darkened window, your mustache still standing firm thanks to the wax and the trainer you used earlier. You suspect that it was a bit of both. Fashion and technology always seem to dance together, each one pushing the other to new heights of complexity. You set the cup down and pick up the mustache spoon once more. The silver feels light and sleek compared to the porcelain. This is the primary difference between the two tools. The spoon is a tactical instrument, while the cup is a domestic monument. You can carry the spoon in your pocket to a restaurant or a dinner party, ensuring your dignity is protected even when you are away from home. The cup, however, is a part of your morning ritual, a steady companion for your first cup of coffee or your bowl of porridge. You think about the SleepStory incident again and realize that the spoon is your shield in the world, while the cup is your comfort in the home. Both are necessary, but they serve different parts of your identity. The comparison makes you think about the sheer variety of materials used in this era. The spoon is sterling silver, a material that shows your wealth and your commitment to quality. The cup is bone china, a delicate but strong material that represents the height of British manufacturing. You remember that crocodile dung sunscreen people once used and marvel at how far civilization has come. You are no longer using the waste of animals to protect yourself. You are using the finest metals and clays that the earth can provide. There is a sense of progress in these objects, a feeling that humanity is slowly but surely mastering the small inconveniences of life. You feel a quiet pride in being a part of this advanced age. You decide to perform a small experiment. You have a pot of tea sitting on a warmer on your desk, the steam rising in a thin, lazy spiral. You pour a bit of the tea into the mustache cup, listening to the soft, melodic sound of the liquid hitting the porcelain. It is a gentle, domestic sound that makes the room feel even cozier. You lift the cup to your face, feeling the warmth against your skin. As you tilt the cup, the mustache ledge makes contact with your hair. It feels secure and stable. The liquid flows through the center opening, and you take a sip. Your mustache stays perfectly dry, resting comfortably on the porcelain bridge. It is a very different sensation from the spoon. The spoon is a quick, functional interaction, while the cup is a slow, enveloping experience. You lean back in your chair, the tea warming your throat. You think about the men who don't have these tools. You imagine them struggling with their large, unwieldy mustaches, their wax melting in the steam, and their hair becoming a sticky mess of tea and milk. It seems like such an unnecessary struggle when the solutions are so elegant. You feel a bit like a scientist who has discovered a secret that the rest of the world hasn't quite grasped yet. A man's mustache is his emotional support foliage, a piece of his very soul that he wears on his face. To leave it unprotected is to leave himself vulnerable to the judgment of society. The room is very quiet now, save for the occasional soft hiss of the gas lamp on the wall. You find yourself focusing on the textures and the sounds of the evening. You hear the faint tick of the clock on the mantel and the distant rumble of a carriage on the street outside. These sounds are comforting, a reminder of the order and the rhythm of your world. You look at the silver hallmarks on the handle of your spoon, those tiny stamps that tell the story of where and when the silver was made. They are like a secret code, a way for those in the know to verify the quality of their tools. Everything in your life is marked by this attention to detail, from the wax on your lip to the silver in your hand. You think about the mustache trainer again, that leather and elastic cage you wear at night. It is a bit like a tiny face, jail, keeping your hair in line while you sleep. But without it, the mustache would be a wild, untamed thing by morning. The cup and the spoon are the daytime equivalents of the trainer. They are the guards that maintain the work you do in the morning. You realize that your entire life is structured around these layers of protection. You protect your body with wool and silk. You protect your feet with leather. And you protect your mustache with silver and porcelain. It is a world of barriers, but these barriers are what allow you to move through society with confidence. A light joke comes to mind as you look at the cup. You wonder if the sinking feeling the Duchess of Bedford felt was actually just the weight of her hair. Probably not, but the idea makes you smile. You think about how much weight you are carrying on your own face right now. Between the hair, the wax, and the constant attention you pay to it, your mustache is like a small, hairy dumbbell that you are constantly lifting with your upper lip. It is no wonder that Victorian men are known for their stoicism. They are all exhausted from the physical labor of maintaining their facial hair. You take another sip of tea, the mustache ledge doing its duty with silent efficiency. The mustache cup is also a canvas for art. You look at the landscape on your cup, the tiny figures walking across the bridge, and the birds flying in the distance. It is a whole world contained on a piece of pottery. You think about the artists in the Staffordshire potteries, spending their days painting thousands of these cups. To them, the mustache guard is just another part of the surface, another place to add a bit of gold leaf or a tiny floral spray. But to you, that guard is the most important part of the object. It is the difference between a successful breakfast and a morning of frustration. You appreciate the beauty of the design, but you value the utility even more. The debate about whether the mustache cup influenced the growth of mustaches is a fascinating one. Some argue that the invention of the cup made it so easy to have a mustache that men, who might have otherwise shaved, decided to keep their hair. Others say that the mustache was already so popular that the cup was simply an inevitable technological progression. You find yourself leaning toward the second theory. The mustache is a powerful symbol, and men will always find ways to keep the things they value. If the cup hadn't been invented, you probably would have just kept using your mustache spoon or carrying a stack of extra napkins. The desire for the style comes first. The tool follows. You pick up the spoon again, the silver catching the light of the gas lamp. You realize that there is a certain over-engineering to both of these objects that is quintessentially Victorian. You don't just solve a problem, you solve it with style, with precious materials, and with a complex set of rules. It is the same mindset that led to the creation of the steam engine and the massive iron bridges that span the Thames. You are a people who love to build, to structure, and to improve. Even the smallest part of your life, the space between your nose and your mouth, is subject to the grand march of progress. It is a comforting thought, the idea that nothing is too small for the attention of a great civilization. As you sit in the deepening twilight, you feel a sense of peace. You have your tools, you have your knowledge, and you have your dignity. The struggle with the soup is a thing of the past. The fear of the tea party is gone. You are a man who has mastered his environment. You look at the mustache cup and the mustache spoon sitting side by side on your desk. They are like two loyal soldiers, ready to defend your honor at a moment's notice. You feel a sudden wave of sleepiness, the warmth of the tea, and the quiet of the room finally taking hold. Your eyes feel heavy, and your breathing slows to a calm, steady rhythm. You think about the morning to come, the routine of the wax and the trainer. You look forward to it. It is a ritual of self-care, a way of preparing yourself for the world. And now you have the choice of which tool to use. Will it be the silver spoon for a breakfast of porridge, or the porcelain cup for a morning of coffee and news? The choice is yours, and that is a wonderful feeling. You are the master of your own grooming destiny. You feel a final, sleepy smile touch your lips, the wax holding firm against the movement. You are a Victorian gentleman, and you are ready for rest. The sounds of the house, are fading into the background. You hear the soft creak of the floorboards as the building settles for the night. You hear the distant wind whispering against the window. These are the sounds of safety, of home. You feel a sense of gratitude for the life you live, for the beauty of the objects you own, and for the traditions you uphold. You are part of a grand story, a story of hair and silver and porcelain. It is a story that will continue long after you are gone, but for now, you are the protagonist. You are the man with the mustache, the man with the spoon, and the man with the cup. You close your eyes, the image of the blue and white porcelain ledge fading into the darkness. You feel the weight of your mustache, a familiar and grounding sensation. It is your anchor in the world, your constant companion. You drift toward sleep, your mind wandering through the landscapes of the mustache cups and the intricate engravings of the silver spoons. You are in a world of beauty and order, a world where every problem has a silver-plated solution. You feel a deep, calm relaxation move through your limbs, the tiredness of the day washing away like tea through a porcelain guard. The night is your time to recover, to let the wax soften and the hair rest. Tomorrow the dance will begin again. You will wake up, you will groom, and you will face the world with your head held high and your mustache perfectly in place. But for now, there is only the quiet and the dark. You are at peace, a gentleman of the 19th century, resting in the heart of a city that never stops moving. You are a part of it all, a single thread in a vast and complicated tapestry. You sleep, and the mustache spoon and the mustache cup watch over you, silent sentinels of a bygone age. The journey of the mustache has brought you to this point of quiet reflection. You have seen the challenges, and you have found the tools. You have learned the rules, and you have mastered the etiquette. You are a complete man, a man of style and substance. As you drift into the deepest part of the night, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You have lived the life of a gentleman, and you have done it with grace. The silver and the porcelain are your rewards, the tools of your trade. You are ready for whatever the future might bring, because you know that you can handle it with the right equipment and a well-waxed upper lip. The world outside continues its slow, rhythmic pulse, but you are far away now, in the land of dreams. You dream of silver bridges and porcelain balconies, of tea that never splashes and wax that never melts. It is a beautiful dream, a dream of a world where everything is perfect and everyone is perfectly groomed. You are at rest, and all is well. The mustache spoon and the mustache cup sit in the darkness, their surfaces catching the faint, flickering light of the dying fire. They are ready for tomorrow, and so are you. Sleep now, and let the history of the mustache unfold in the quiet corners of your mind. You find yourself transported from the soft velvet of a London drawing-room to the rigid, grey world of a military barracks. The air here is different. It is colder, sharper, and carries the heavy scent of gun oil, boot blacking, and the faint, lingering smell of wood smoke from a distant kitchen. The light of early morning is a pale, watery blue, filtering through high, narrow windows that seem designed more for defense than for warmth. You are no longer just a gentleman of leisure. You are a man under orders, and those orders extend even to the hair on your face. You stand before a small, cracked mirror, your fingers trembling slightly from the morning chill. In your hand, you hold a tin of military, grade mustache wax, a substance far tougher and more stubborn than the lavender, scented creams of the city. This is the reality of the British Army in the late 19th century, a world where your upper lip is not your own, but the property of the crown. One mainstream historical fact that defines this era is the existence of Command Paper 3502, which eventually became part of the King's regulations. From the year 1860 until the middle of the First World War in 1916, it was actually illegal for a British soldier to shave his upper lip. Regulation 1695 stated quite clearly that the hair of the head was to be kept short, but the chin and under lip were to be shaved, and a mustache was to be worn. To pick up a razor and clear your face was to commit an act of rebellion, an offense that could lead to a court martial and a stay in a military prison. You look at your reflection and realize that your mustache is a uniform in its own right. It is a mandatory piece of equipment, as essential as your rifle or your boots. You feel the weight of this requirement, a physical manifestation of the discipline that governs every second of your life. The process of grooming in a barracks is far from the leisurely morning you enjoyed in your study. Here, there are no silk cravats or porcelain mustache cups. There is only the rhythmic scrape of a straight razor against the jaw and the heavy, concentrated breathing of men trying to achieve perfection in a cold room. You take a small amount of the wax, which is thick and yellow, feeling like a piece of cold candle. It smells of turpentine and beeswax, a harsh, functional scent that wakes you up more than the weak coffee ever could. You work it between your fingers, trying to soften it enough to apply. You remember that mustache trainer you used in the civilian world, and you wish you had it now. Here, you have to use your fingers and a small bone comb to shape the hair into a stiff, horizontal line. It must be neat, it must be balanced, and it must be impressive. A quirky and fringe tidbit of military life is the secret recipe for regimental wax. Many soldiers believed that the standard issue wax was not strong enough to withstand the wind and rain of a parade ground. They would often mix their own versions, adding strange ingredients like pine resin, crushed charcoal for color, or even a bit of animal fat to give it a waterproof coating. You have heard of men using the same grease they used for their boots just to ensure their mustache wouldn't droop during a long inspection. It is a strange form of vanity born from necessity. If a sergeant major sees a single hair out of place, he won't see a tired soldier. He will see a failure of character. Your mustache is the front line of your professional reputation. Historians still argue whether the mustache was truly for intimidation or merely for uniformity. Some scholars believe the British adopted the look from the brave soldiers of the Indian regiments, who traditionally wore fierce mustaches as a sign of their warrior status. The theory is that the British officers realized their clean, shaven faces looked youthful and weak in comparison, and so they mandated the mustache to give their men a more mature and terrifying appearance. You look at yourself and wonder if you look terrifying. To your own eyes, you just look like a man who spent 20 minutes fighting with a tin of wax in a room that is 5 degrees above freezing. But when you pull your shoulders back and set your jaw, the mustache does add a certain gravity to your face. It fills the space, making you appear broader, older, and more grounded. The ritual of the morning muster is approaching. You hear the distant muffled thud of boots on the gravel outside, and the sharp, rhythmic call of a distant command. You move with a sense of urgency, smoothing the last stray hairs into place. You think about the civilian mustache spoon you left behind. In this world, there is no such luxury. When you eat your morning stew from a tin mess kit, your mustache will inevitably get dipped in the gravy. You will have to clean it with a rough piece of cloth and hope the wax holds. The mustache spoon was a tool of elegance. Here, you only have the tool of endurance. You realize that the mustache is a burden of the highest order. It requires constant attention, yet you are given no special equipment to manage it. You are simply expected to be perfect at all times. You walk out onto the parade ground, the cold air hitting your face like a physical blow. Your mustache immediately begins to stiffen as the wax reacts to the temperature. It feels like two small boards are attached to your lip. You stand in a long, silent line with 100 other men, all of them sporting the exact same facial architecture. It is a strange sight, a sea of hair, all groomed to the same standard. You feel a sense of camaraderie in this shared struggle. Every man in this line has spent his morning the same way you have. Every man is worried about the same stray hairs and the same melting wax. You are part of a hairy brotherhood, a collective identity defined by a government mandate. As the officer walks past you, his boots making a crisp, crunching sound on the frozen earth, you hold your breath. He stops in front of you, his eyes scanning your uniform from your cap to your toes. His gaze lingers for a second on your upper lip. You feel a bead of sweat start to form under the wax, despite the cold. You remember that crocodile, dung sunscreen from your earlier thoughts, and think how much simpler life was when people only had to worry about the sun. Here, you have to worry about the very shape of your face. The officer gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod and moves on. You have passed the test. You have maintained the standard. You feel a rush of relief, a quiet satisfaction that you have done your duty. The morning progresses with the heavy rhythm of drills and exercises. You move through the maneuvers, your body reacting with the precision of a machine. You feel the wind tugging at your mustache, but the wax holds. It is a small victory. But in the military, small victories are the only kind you get. You think about the history of the shaving ban and how it changed the face of the nation. For over 50 years, an entire generation of men grew up knowing that they would one day be required to grow this hair. It became the default look of the British male, a style that defined the Victorian and Edwardian eras. And it all started here, in the cold, grey barracks, and on the windy parade grounds of the Empire. As the sun climbs higher, providing a little bit of warmth, but no real heat, you find yourself thinking about the end of the day. You look forward to the moment you can return to your quarters and finally relax your face. Constant grooming and the rigid posture required of a soldier are exhausting. You feel the weight of the mustache, not just as hair, but as a symbol of the expectations placed upon you. It is a heavy thing to carry, but you carry it with pride. You are a soldier of the Queen, and your mustache is your badge of office. You move with a steady pace, the rhythm of your movements matching the heartbeat of the regiment. You think about the contrast between your military life and your civilian life. In the city, the mustache is a choice, a way to show off your style and your wealth with silver spoons and porcelain cups. Here it is a requirement, a way to show your obedience and your discipline. It is the same hair, but it has a completely different meaning. You wonder if the people in the city realize how much of their fashion is rooted in the life of the soldier. They copy the look, but they don't have to live with the consequences. They don't have to face a court martial for a clean-shaven face. You smile to yourself, a tiny movement that is careful not to disturb the wax. You feel a sense of hidden knowledge, a realization that you understand the true cost of style. The sounds of the camp are a constant background hum. You hear the clink of metal on metal from the smithy, the distant neighing of horses, and the low murmur of men talking in the barracks. It is a world of order and routine, a world where everything has its place. Your mustache is part of that order. It is a detail that has been accounted for, regulated, and inspected. You feel a sense of security in this structure. Even though it is demanding, it is also predictable. You know what is expected of you, and you know how to meet those expectations. It is a calm, steady way of living, even if it is a bit hairy. You find yourself drifting into a state of quiet contemplation as you work on cleaning your rifle. The repetitive motion of the cloth against the metal is soothing, a rhythmic task that allows your mind to wander. You think about the future of the mustache. Will it always be mandatory? Will there come a day when a soldier can choose his own face? It is hard to imagine a British army without mustaches, but the world is always changing. You have heard whispers of new regulations, of a shift toward a more modern look as the new century begins. But for now, you are firmly rooted in the tradition of the past. You are a man of the mustache mandate, and you will do your duty until the orders change. You recall the mustache napkins you thought about earlier. You wish you had one now as you take a break for a quick meal. The bread is hard and the tea is strong, and both are enemies of a waxed mustache. You use the sleeve of your coat to carefully dab your face, a move that would be scandalous in a London dining room, but is perfectly acceptable here. You are a survivor. You have learned to adapt to your environment, to find ways to maintain your appearance, even in the harshest conditions. You feel a sense of rugged pride in your ability to stay well groomed while living in a tent or a barracks. It is a form of mental toughness, a way of holding on to your civilization in the midst of the wild. The afternoon sun begins to fade, casting long, dramatic shadows across the parade ground. You feel a sense of peace settling over the camp. The heavy work of the day is done, and the men are beginning to relax. You return to your quarters, the familiar scent of the barracks greeting you like an old friend. You sit on your narrow cot and reach for your small mirror. Your mustache is still there, still stiff, and still perfectly shaped. You have made it through another day. You have survived the inspection, the wind, and the meal. You feel a deep, quiet satisfaction. You have played your part in the grand theater of the military, and you have done it with style. You think about the wax again, that hard yellow substance that has become such a part of your daily life. It is more than just a grooming product. It is a tool of transformation. It turns a simple man into a soldier. It gives you a face that commands respect and projects strength. You realize that you have come to rely on it. Without the wax, you would just be another tired man in a cold room. With it, you are a part of a legendary tradition. You feel a sense of gratitude for the wax, despite its harsh smell and its stubborn texture. It is the glue that holds your identity together. As the evening turns to night, the camp grows quiet. The only sound is the soft, rhythmic breathing of the men around you, and the occasional crackle of a distant fire. You lie down on your cot, feeling the cool air on your face. You are careful not to let your mustache brush against the rough blanket. Even in sleep, you are a soldier. You are a man of the mandate. You feel a sense of deep, calm relaxation moving through your body. You have done everything that was asked of you. You have maintained your uniform, your rifle, and your face. You are at peace. You think about the history of hair one last time. You remember the clean, shaven faces of the ancient Romans and the massive, untamed beards of the Vikings. Every age has its own rules about how a man should look. You are living in the age of the mustache, an era of precision and pride. It is a good era to be a part of. It is an era of strength and character. You feel a slow, deep breath move through your lungs, the air passing through the waxed tips of your mustache. It is a calm and steady rhythm, a pulse that matches the heart of the regiment. The world outside may be full of chaos and change, but here in the heart of the army, there is only order. There is only the regulation, the inspection, and the mustache. You are a part of this world, a single thread in a vast and complicated tapestry. You feel a sense of belonging, a comfort in the rules and the structure of your life. You are a soldier of the Victorian age, and you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You close your eyes. The memory of the cold morning air and the hard yellow wax a comforting presence in your mind. The journey of the military mustache is a story of discipline and dedication. It is a story of men who cared enough about their country and their appearance to spend their mornings fighting with a tin of wax. It is a story of uniformity and strength. You are a part of that story, and you are proud of it. As you drift towards sleep, you feel the weight of your mustache, a familiar and grounding sensation. It is your anchor in the world, your constant companion. You are at rest, and all is well. The camp is still, the soldiers are asleep, and the mustaches are all perfectly in place, waiting for the morning and the new challenges it will bring. You have learned that the mustache is more than just fashion. It is a commitment. It is a way of showing the world that you are a man of discipline and character. Whether you are in a London dining room with a silver spoon, or on a frozen parade ground with a tin of regimental wax, the mustache remains the same. It is a symbol of an age that valued the small details and the grand gestures. You are a part of that age, and you are happy to play your part. You sleep soundly, the quiet rhythm of your breathing the only sound in the room. The world is at rest, and so are you. The years have a way of drifting past like the slow, steady current of a wide river, and you find yourself now in a world that feels significantly lighter. The heavy velvet curtains of your youth have been replaced by airy lace that flutters in the breeze of an open window. The flickering gaslight has given way to the steady, humorless glow of electric bulbs. You are sitting in your favorite armchair, the one with the worn leather arms that seem to hold the shape of your body like an old friend. On the small table beside you rests a wooden box, its surface polished by years of handling. Inside, tucked away in a bed of fading silk, lies your mustache spoon. It is a beautiful relic of a time that is quietly slipping away. You pick it up, feeling the familiar weight of the sterling silver, and you realize that you haven't used it in years. The world has changed, and the face you see in the mirror today is very different from the one that once navigated the challenges of a Victorian dinner party. One mainstream historical fact that marks this transition is the invention and mass production of the safety razor by King Camp Gillett in the early 1900s. Before this, shaving was a dangerous and time-consuming task involving a straight razor that could easily draw blood if your hand slipped. But the safety razor changed everything. It made a clean, shaven face accessible, quick, and safe for every man, regardless of his skill with a blade. Suddenly, the long, laborious process of waxing, combing, and training a mustache started to feel like a burden rather than a badge of honor. You think back to the mustache trainer you used to wear at night, that tiny leather cage that kept your hair in line while you slept. It feels like a piece of ancient history now, a strange device from a world that had too much time on its hands. You rub your upper lip, which is now trimmed short and neat, and you feel a sense of lightness that you never knew was missing. The shift in fashion was not just about convenience. It was also about the way the world viewed health and cleanliness. As the 19th century turned into the 20th, the understanding of germs and bacteria began to spread through the public consciousness. Mustaches, once seen as natural air filters that protected a man from dust and soot, were suddenly reimagined as dangerous bacteria traps. Doctors began to warn that a long, bushy mustache could harbor all sorts of invisible threats, especially if it was constantly being dipped into food and drink. You remember the soup stash incidents of your youth and realize that the medical community might have had a point. The mustache spoon, once your greatest ally in the war for dignity, was now seen by some as a tool used to manage a hygienic hazard. You look at the silver guard on your spoon and smile at the irony. What was once the height of civilization was now becoming a symbol of a messier, less scientific age. A quirky and fringe tidbit of this era of change is the story of the Anti-Mustache League in France. This was a group of waiters who went on strike in 1907, demanding the right to grow mustaches because, at the time, only the upper classes and the military were allowed to wear them. They won their battle, but by the time they were allowed to have facial hair, the fashion was already starting to die out. It is a classic case of history moving faster than the laws that govern it. You think about those waiters fighting for a right that the rest of the world was slowly giving up. It makes you realize how much our identity is tied to the things we are allowed or required to do with our bodies. You think about the barracks and the mandatory mustaches of the British Army, and you feel a sense of relief that those days are behind you. Historians still argue whether the decline of the grand Victorian mustache was purely a practical response to modern technology or a deeper psychological shift toward a more youthful, energetic image. The Victorian man was a figure of gravity, age, and stability, represented by his heavy coat and even heavier facial hair. The modern man of the new century wanted to look fast, clean, and ready for action. You see this shift in the way people move. There are more bicycles on the streets now, more motor cars, and a sense that life is accelerating. A long, waxed mustache doesn't quite fit in the driver's seat of a speeding automobile. It is a fashion for a slower time, a time of long walks and even longer dinners. You feel the rhythm of the modern world, and it is a faster, more frantic beat than the one you grew up with. The final blow to the era of the ornate mustache came with the arrival of the Great War. In the trenches of Europe, men found that a large, bushy mustache made it impossible to get a proper seal on a gas mask. To survive a chemical attack, a man had to be clean-shaven or have only a very small, trimmed mustache that didn't interfere with the rubber edges of the mask. In October 1916, the British Army finally repealed the regulation that made the mustache mandatory. After more than 50 years, a soldier was finally allowed to pick up a razor and clear his face. You think about the men in those trenches, the same ones who had once used regimental wax to look fierce, now scraping their skin bare just to stay alive. It is a sobering thought, a reminder that fashion always bows to the needs of survival. The mustache was no longer a badge of courage, it was a liability. You look down at your silver spoon, the light of the evening sun, catching the intricate engravings on the handle. It is such a small, delicate thing, yet it represents an entire philosophy of living. It represents a world that valued the slow, the ornamental, and the ritualistic. You think about the afternoon teas and the formal dinners, the clink of the porcelain mustache cups, and the soft rustle of silk. It was a world of barriers and guards, where everything had a specific tool and a specific rule. You remember the crocodile, dung sunscreen of the ancients, and realize that your silver spoon is just another chapter in the long, strange book of human vanity. We are always finding new ways to protect our images, to sculpt ourselves into something the world will admire. The room is growing darker now, and the shadows are filling the corners. You feel a sense of peace as you look at your collection of old things. There is the mustache trainer, the tin of wax, the silver spoon, and the porcelain cup. They are like quiet witnesses to the life you have lived. You don't need them anymore, but you are glad they are there. They remind you of who you were and the world you once inhabited. You feel a sleepy sort of nostalgia, a warm and fuzzy feeling that comes from looking back at a journey well traveled. You have navigated the challenges of the Victorian age, and you have emerged into the light of a new day. You are a survivor of fashion, a man who has lived through the rise and fall of the greatest facial hair craze in history. You lean back in your chair, your breathing slowing to a deep, steady rhythm. The air in the room is cool and still, and you feel a sense of profound relaxation. The struggle for the perfect curl, the anxiety of the soup course, the weight of the military mandate. It is all gone. You are just a man in a quiet room, surrounded by the echoes of the past. You think about the young men you see on the street today, their faces smooth and clear, their hair short and practical. They will never know the feeling of a silver guard against their lip, or the smell of lavender, scented wax in the morning. They live in a simpler world, and in some ways, you envy them. But you wouldn't trade your memories for their simplicity. You have lived in a world of silver and hair, and it was a beautiful, complicated, and wonderful place to be. The city outside is quiet, the sounds of the motorcars fading into the distance. You hear the soft, rhythmic tick of the clock on the mantel, a sound that seems to measure the passing of eras rather than just hours. You feel your eyelids growing heavy, and you are happy to let them close. The wooden box sits on the table, the silver spoon resting inside, a tiny monument to a bygone age. You drift toward sleep, your mind wandering through the landscapes of your youth. You see the gaslights flickering on the cobblestones, the steam rising from a bowl of soup, and the sharp, elegant points of a perfectly waxed mustache. It is a dream of a world that is gone, but it is a dream that feels very close, like the whisper of a friend in the dark. As you slip into the deepest part of the night, you feel a sense of completeness. You have told the story of the mustache, from its rise in the barracks of the Crimea to its fall in the trenches of France. You have explored the tools, the rules, and the reasons behind it all. You have found the beauty in the small details and the humor in the grand gestures. You are at peace with the past and ready for the future. The world will keep changing, and new fashions will come and go, but the story of the mustache and the silver spoon will always be a part of you. It is a story of what it means to be a human, to care about how we look, and to find clever ways to solve the little problems of life. The darkness is soft and welcoming, like a heavy velvet blanket. You feel the warmth of your home and the quiet of your heart. You are a gentleman of the old school, living in a new world, and you are doing just fine. You have your memories, your silver, and your peace. The night is long, and the rest is well deserved. You sleep, and in your dreams, the mustache spoon gleams in the light of a sun that never sets, a silver bridge to a time of elegance, order, and perfectly groomed upper lips. The air in your room seems to grow even softer now, the silence deepening into a rich, velvety stillness that wraps around you like a cocoon. You can feel the tension leaving your muscles, starting from your toes and moving slowly up through your legs, your back, and finally into your shoulders. Each breath you take is a long, slow sigh of contentment, a gentle release of the day's lingering thoughts. The world outside has completely faded away, leaving only this pocket of warmth and quiet. You are safe here, nestled in the heart of your home, where the only thing that matters is the rhythm of your own heart. The images of the past, the glint of the silver spoon, the curl of the wax, the stiff collars, and the grand dinner tables begin to dissolve into a soft, golden haze. They are no longer sharp memories but gentle whispers, fading echoes of a life lived with care and attention to detail. You find yourself drifting on a calm, dark sea of sleep, where the waves are nothing more than tiny ripples of peace. There is no rush here, no deadlines to meet, no rules of etiquette to follow. There is only the vast, quiet expanse of the night, waiting to carry you into the land of dreams. You feel a sense of profound reassurance, a knowledge that everything is exactly as it should be. The history you have explored, the stories you have told, they are all tucked away now, safe in the corners of your mind. You don't need to hold on to them anymore. You can simply let them be. You are free to let go, to sink deeper into the cushions of your chair, and to let the world turn without you for a while. The stars are shining outside, distant and steady, watching over a world that is finally at rest. Your thoughts become slower, more fragmented, like the last few embers of a dying fire. You think of the cool touch of silver one last time, then the feeling of a soft pillow, and then nothing at all but the steady, comforting pulse of your own breathing. You are drifting, floating, sinking into a sleep that is as deep and as timeless as history itself. The journey is over, the story is told, and the night is yours.